I would like to welcome to our university, Reichman University, all the guests that came from different parts of the world. And I'm sure that we are going to have a very productive conference. And I hope that we will have also a very good time in Israel and at our university.
Professor Reichman, the chair of the board and founder of the Reichman University, Mr. Shabtai Shavit, the chairman of the board of directors, Professor Boaz Ganor, founder and executive director of ICT, General Amos Gilad, chairman of IPS, Institute for Policy and Strategy, Mr. Moshe Fadlon, the mayor of Herzliya, Mr. Ronen Bar, the head of the Shabak, Mr. the ambassador of the United States, Thomas Knights, who just arrived, U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mr. Kevin Weinbein, the Assistant Director of Counter-Terrorism Division, ladies and gentlemen. We all know that in nurtured gardens, sometimes there are wild plants as well. As a former farmer, I can tell you that you can fight this phenomenon and to reduce this phenomenon. But in this war, there are byproducts which are not pleasant. And if you exaggerate, you can toxicate the plants, and then even the soil itself may be poisoned. And we know that even if we cover the entire world with asphalt, all these plants may flourish. I think that this analogy is right, but as opposed to soil, in the changes that happen with time are minors. The environment where terror grows keeps changing all the time. Shaping a strategy against terrorism requires not just to understand the phenomenon, but also to understand the environment where it grows. The international environment is now in a turning point. The globalization of the world that activated the international trends recently brought a lot of blossoming and development to the world, but it is now threatened, and there's a fear that at the moment it came to an end. The first signs of the threat of globalizations we could have identified in 2016, where the referendum for the Brexit was approved, and parallel to that, also, Donald Trump was elected president of the U.S., and he had a policy of America first, and he canceled international agreements. Globalization was hit a blow when the COVID-19 epidemic came about, because it changed the supply chain and also exposed the risks between countries. The method of relying on the fact that raw materials and spare parts will be available always were jeopardized. And some of the countries started rethinking of how to go about and how to rely on local markets. And then there was the Ukraine war, which broke out, and it proved to us that the old world is still alive and kicking, and tanks are now moving again in the center of Europe. In this very short analysis, I wanted to illustrate that the world environment is changing, and therefore we have to expect the change of the patterns of terror as well as its methods. I hope that this conference this year will help us to advance this kind of thinking about fighting terrorism. And to conclude, I'd like to congratulate the ICT for organizing this conference and for its activity throughout the years, and especially the founder of ICT and the Director General, who has been leading it with great success, Professor Boaz.